Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the interview preparedness webinar. My name is Santina, and we're about to go into everything that you would need to know before, during, and after your interview. This is for any interview, specifically speaking in terms of the one that's going to be on Friday and Saturday, but any job interview, these tips will be, you still need them. Okay, so we're just going to dive right in. So starting off with the before, obviously, and just so you guys know, the interview starts way before you actually arrive. One thing that you would need to do before you get to the interview, you would need to research the organization that you would be interviewing with. So check their social medias, Google, any information, any written information, anything that you would find some stuff on them that you would need to know, like what their social outreach programs are, or just how they treat their employees, or just how they treat their members, so that you would be able to confirm that if you actually want to be a part of this organization or not. Secondly, you would need to know your why. So why are you applying to be a part of this organization? Why are you applying for this job? Why are you applying, or why are you even at this interview? So know why you're doing it. That way it'll feel you'll have a bit more connection to actually being successful throughout the interview. Always prepare questions to ask beforehand. And I know some people, like when asked during an interview if they have any questions, they think it's polite to say, no, I don't. But interviewers actually think it's impressive when you do have questions prepared, because then it shows that you actually care a little bit more. You took the time to actually figure out some stuff about them, and you still want to know if you're a good fit for the organization, and you actually did your research. Always do a dry run of possible questions beforehand, and that would be, say, if you're with a friend or a family member, get them to ask you some questions that you think that they may ask at the interview. And that always comes in handy when it comes to actually pre-answering questions, and like if you do get to the interview and they ask one of the questions that you practice, you already have an answer prepared, which is great. Next, you'll always want to arrive on time or early, but never late. Pick out your outfit and press your outfit the night before, which helps to make sure that you get there on time. It also helps you to be a little less nervous and stressed and less hiccups on the day of. Always review your CV or your resume beforehand. That way you know exactly all the information that the interviewer may have on you, and that way you are well versed on yourself and you can answer any questions, any trick questions that they may have prepared. You're ready to answer, as well as your references, etc. Know yourself, know who you are, because people tend to ask, who are you? Tell me about yourself and your goals, etc., your strengths, your weaknesses. Those are pretty traditional interview questions, and people, if you seem a little like you don't know the answers to those questions, it's a bit of a red flag, because how are we hiring you or allowing you to join an organization if you yourself don't know you? Also, know what being a part of the organization entails. So what do they expect? What do they expect from you, etc. And in that regard, I'll go into show you our constitution to let you know what are required of members, and etc. So just give me a second. Okay, so this may be a little hard, but if anything, I'll read through and then I'll also attach it to the email with the link of the webinar at the end for those who weren't able to make it. So we have in the Crown Society senior members, junior members, and honorary members. Senior members would be full-fledged members, people who have actually completed the membership intake process. Junior members are people who haven't completed it yet, so that would be anybody trying to or applying or in the interview process of the organization. So you guys would be considered junior members because you aren't full-fledged members as yet. And then we have honorary members, which would be anybody who has contributed or who has been a past member but isn't an active member, etc. Member code of conduct will be here as well. I won't really fully read through it, but it'll all be attached to the email, so you guys will be able to see that. Okay, back to the presentation. So, know what being a part of the organization entails. And with that, we'll close off the before part of the interview and move on into the actual interview. Things that you'll need to know. The interview, the do's, the things that you need to do during the interview or that would help you. So number one would be confident even if you aren't normally. Fake it till you make it. It helps because when you come off timid and shy, people or interviewers tend to think that you're pretty soft-spoken, and one, people could take advantage of you too, and they don't think that you would be a well fit for the organization or the job because you're not, self-confident. Expect traditional as well as behavioral questions. So in doing your research as far as like preparing questions and also preparing for the questions that they may ask you, be sure to research traditional and both behavioral questions because those do tend to come from time to time. Another thing that you would need to do is relax. They're not there to scare you, intimidate you. They just want to know a little bit about you. So just relax and be yourself. Second, I think this is probably like the fifth thing. Answer directly. If you don't know the answer, give it a shot anyway, because most times you shoot for the stars, you'll fall. If you shoot for the moon, you'll fall on the stars. So if you kind of try to answer, you might be able to get a suitable answer in, but don't just say, oh, I don't know, because that's kind of frowned upon. Also, pause before answering. Give yourself some time to think about the question and also think about your answer. Maintain eye contact throughout. Listen carefully to the question. That goes hand in hand with pausing before answering. Make sure you understand what they're asking. If you don't understand, then you could always ask them to repeat the question or explain it a little more for you, and I'm pretty sure that people are always willing to do that. You can also start the conversation. It's always a good thing to start the conversation. It shows that you can take initiative, and it helps you to feel like you're in control of the situation for a point. Lastly, during the interview, you can bring some water because I know people tend to get nervous. And for me, I like to have water on the side of me just in case I either get a dry throat or I have to cough or something. It helps to, calm me down. On to the don'ts of an interview. Don't talk too quickly because people then won't be able to hear you. And even if your answer is right, they just won't be able to get a concise idea of what you're trying to say. Don't ramble or get off topic because that kind of is frowned upon. And don't fidget or lie. Lastly, don't stress if you make a mistake because everybody makes mistakes, and it's easier to not think about your mistakes and move on than to keep thinking about it and make more mistakes, and that's never a good thing. Lastly, we're going to go on to the after the interview segment. That'll be the end of me talking, and then we'll have our next panelist come in. So the after you're done with the interview, here are a few things that you'll need to do. Ask any questions you may still have at the end. So if you still have any questions, or if throughout the interview you've been jotting down some questions, also that's another thing. You could also bring a notepad to write down any information that you may gain during the interview that you want to remember, and also to write down any questions that you may have throughout and you just can't keep it in your mind at the moment. But ask any questions that you may still have at the end before you leave. And then also be sure to say thank you for the opportunity. And lastly, follow up appropriately. So if at the end of your interview, 2 weeks in, a week later, you still haven't heard from them, it's okay to give them an email and just, see what they're saying, if they have any positive response for you, or if they just have any feedback, it would always be great. Moving on to the confidence part of this segment.
Good night, everyone. My name is Vashti Burrows, and I will be speaking to you on confidence. Now, nothing is more exciting than booking the interview, but after a brief moment of celebration, the panic sets in, your heart is already pounding, your palms are beginning to sweat, and you're wondering, can my interviewer smell my fare? But don't let those nerves get to you. With these tips, you will be able to build the confidence you need to remain cool and collected in your interview. First, I will discuss the pre-interview confidence tips. Be kind to yourself before the interview. It's important to speak to yourself with compassion, almost like a best friend, and erase any negative or critical thoughts that stand in your way. And don't be afraid to sell yourself. People worry about appearing arrogant, but the interview panel are not mind readers and do not automatically know what you have to offer. So it is up to you to tell them. Imagine yourself succeeding. Picturing yourself being successful at an upcoming interview will give you the boost to your confidence and self-esteem that you need. Before you go in, start visualizing a successful interview. Imagine how you walk into the room, shake the interviewer's hands, and answer the questions with confidence. This technique will help calm any pre-interview nerves. If you have a strong belief that you are the best person for the job, and then you relax into your confidence, it should surely help. Prepare and rehearse answers out loud. If you go into an interview with prepared answers for questions, it takes the pressure off you and you walk in with confidence because you know your stuff. To make sure you are well equipped, rehearse potential interview questions and answers with a friend. And lastly, get some sleep. Sleep is very vital to our overall well-being, so it shouldn't come as much as a surprise that being well rested before your interview is especially important. After you have laid out your clothes, planned the route you will take for the interview location, and printed extra copies of your resume, it is time to go to bed. During interview confidence. Here are some tips for the during interview. Firstly, and in my opinion most importantly, just breathe. While waiting to be greeted by your interviewer, take a few moments to do some breathing. By doing this, you can redirect the troublesome emotion that you're experiencing, whether it be nervousness or fear. To do this most effectively, take a deep breath through your nose and then slowly blow it out through your mouth. Repeat this 3 times while concentrating on centering your thoughts. The best thing about this technique is you can do it anywhere, so please do not feel shy to do this in the interview. Don't fidget. Nervous fidgeting is one of the most common signs that you are nervous, so this is an incredibly important skill to master. A trick you can do is try to keep your hands clasped together on the table or in your lap to avoid any subconscious table tapping, hair twirling, or any noticeable squirming. For the leg shakers, you can keep your hands in your lap and apply just a little bit of pressure to your legs to remind you to keep them from shaking. If you don't think that you have any fidgety habits, you might just want to think again. Most people aren't aware of their own nervous tendencies. However, practicing with a friend is very important for this very reason, because they can point out your nervous quirks. Make eye contact. Even if you aren't confident, one of the ways of making the interviewer believe that you are is keeping steady, natural eye contact throughout the interview. A key giveaway of a nervous person is a lack of direct eye contact. Looking down, looking away, not looking at the interviewer. A more confident interviewee appears to be engaged with the interviewer. However, you don't want to take this too literally because you don't want to come off as creepy, just staring dead in the interviewer's eyes. So remember to keep the eye contact as natural as possible by taking breaks, like looking down at your resume every once in a while. It's a balancing act. So just keep practicing until it feels comfortable. Press pause. Some of us tend to ramble when we're nervous. This can be dangerous because once we start talking, it's incredibly easy to veer off topic and say more than what is needed, or worse, what's appropriate. To preempt any rambling, try to answer each question with only one thought or idea at a time. The key to mastering this technique is to keep your tone sincere so that your responses, even though they may be brief, they may not come across as curt or dismissive. And lastly, an extra tip is power posing. Your body language shapes who you are. Power posing, standing in the posture, or sitting in the posture of confidence, even if you don't feel so confident, affects your brain's testosterone and cortisol levels and makes you feel a lot more confident, or even just a little bit. So with these tips in mind, please relax, gather your strength, and walk into that interview with a newfound confidence. Any questions?
Okay, if nobody has any questions, I'll just go into a little bit more about things that you will need to know before the interview. So the dress code would be business casual, so no jeans, but you can wear a nice soft pants or a skirt and a nice top, and that would be fine, or even a dress if you would like. For the interviewees that will be coming on Friday, your interviews will be in the seminar room at the law faculty, and for those who will be interviewed on Saturday, your interview will be upstairs in the Guild conference room. So be sure to be on time. See you guys there. And for anybody that may have had any questions, I know everybody wasn't able to join the webinar, so if you have any questions, be sure to shoot us an email and we'll be sure to answer right away, because we know the interviews are tomorrow and Saturday. So if anybody has any questions, there are no dumb questions, there are no silly questions, anything that you may want to know, just shoot us an email and we'll answer them right away. This email should be going out with the webinar in a few. By 8 o'clock you should have it. So enjoy the rest of your night.